Hey there, good morning. This is Heidi von Liebenstein, and I'm with What Jesus Did Do, and this is kind of like a little blog post or whatever. I'm out here this morning with the horses, and I was at church yesterday, and somebody was talking because we were talking about the Good Samaritan and how, what would that look like today? Where in that time, Samaritans were the people who were despised. So if you think of somebody that really rubs you up on the inside, it's like comparing yourself to that person because that person shows more kindness and mercy than the people who consider themselves religious. And I just thought that was rather interesting, and a conversation came up after church about, what about, homosexuality, or what about if somebody murders somebody's child, like how can you ever forgive them? And like this individual just did not understand. And I'm like, my first response yesterday was, you know what, but God's child was murdered, and he forgave. Why can't we do the same thing? And this concept, or this thought process that I have, isn't really for people who consider themselves not Christians. This is geared more towards the people who say they're going to be Christians, because it also says in the Bible, do not use the Lord's name in vain. But if you're going to say that you're Christ-like, a Christian, how are you not? If you're doing anything that's not the way God would do it, how are you not using his name in vain? How are you claiming to have his name and not using it? Today in 2018 and 2000s, whatever, it's like identity theft is a huge problem, and people do jail time, and it's a serious crime. And it's like, how do you know that God doesn't feel like you're stealing the identity of his son and doing something completely contrary to what his son would do? So it's not necessarily like, how can you love somebody who, when they murdered somebody else's child? I mean, everybody who dies is somebody else's child, whether they die of natural causes or whatever. But it's like death is the only guarantee after birth. I say this, and I don't mean to be insensitive. I've lost my son, my firstborn son. He died a couple years ago in a 4-wheeler accident. So yes, there is pain, and yes, it does happen, but there's hope, and he's in heaven. And it's like, but beyond that is like, so death is not something that I'm just going to talk about lightly. But on the same token, it's like, what if when you go there, you're not responsible for somebody else? You're responsible for you and your choices. What about when you go there, in order to get into heaven, is God going to see you as a good lover? Like, were you able to love God? Did God feel your love, or did he just feel empty words to say, I believe in him, I love him? Or does he actually feel like you love that person? Or, you love God, and then when you understand how much he loves you, you're able to love other people. And as I was cleaning the stalls this morning, I'm just thinking about it. It's like, nowhere in the Bible does it say that you need to understand somebody else's struggles. It says, do not lean on your own understanding. Yet a lot of times Christians, or people who say they're Christians, will say that they can't do this because they don't understand it. Well, how are you not in sin then? How is your sin not even any better or worse than somebody else? In one section of the Bible, God says that the religious people will be judged harder than the people of Sodom and Gomorrah because they rejected the true word. And it's like, Sodom and Gomorrah, those were men who wanted to rape the angels. You'll never be more pure than an angel coming out of heaven. But it's like, these men wanted to rape that. And they wanted to have sex with these male angels. And that's where sodomy comes from. That's what homosexuality comes from. Now, the Bible does have things about it, but it doesn't matter whether it's that sin, or it's murder, or it's gluttony, or it's, alcoholism. It says that we should not be gluttons. It says we should not be drunk. We should not, there's a lot of other things that it says that you should not do. And each person has their own accountability for what they're doing. So if you want to be out here and you want to be judging somebody else because you don't understand what they're going through, that's not your place. And if you don't realize this and you don't take time to see, like, God, how do you see this person? It's like the price that Jesus paid on the cross was not wasted on my son. But what if that person who is struggling with a pain, if they don't find God, and God wanted to use you to help that person understand his love for them, so that way they could be redeemed and they don't have to spend eternity in hell, and you're hung up on what you do and do not understand, and so then you're not going to love, and your love is going to be conditional. how do you know that you're any better than that? How do you know that you're pleasing God any more than they're displeasing God? You know, so it's like, we're not supposed to, there will be things in this life that you will never understand. I may never